Hey everybody, let's talk about how to answer the common job interview question, why should I hire you? In a job interview. Now, here is an article that appeared recently in Access Employment. Okay, this is it. This is the whole article. Let's go down it and see if they got it right. Okay, it's called How to Answer Why Should I Hire You in an Interview. Now, this starts out by explaining that pretty much any job interview you go to, they're pretty much guaranteed to ask you this question. Now, they might not ask you this question in this exact form, okay? Instead of saying, why should I hire you? They could ask you something else, like, why do you think you're the most qualified for this job? But essentially, they will ask you this question. This is very, very common. And what it is they're basically inviting you to sell yourself, to make a case for yourself as to why they should pick you. Now, a lot of people misinterpret this question. They think that, when somebody asks you, why should I hire you? Your answer should be, well, because I need a job. Duh. Obviously, that is a very bad answer. Don't say that. The reason is because they're not asking you, why you should be hired. They're asking, why should they hire you specifically over any other candidate? What makes you so special? Okay, that's what they're asking. So it's not about you, it's about them. Why should they pick you? Now, there's actually a very, very simple answer to this question, and it's very easy to remember too, okay? When they ask you, why should I hire you? All you have to do is explain how you meet all the posted job requirements, okay? So in the job posting, the thing that you saw, usually online, that you responded to with the job application, okay, there'll be a few things written in the job ad. They'll give you an explanation of what the job is and what it involves and what the title is and all this. And they'll also have a section that gives their requirements. So they're looking for somebody that has a certain educational qualification, perhaps, and then has a certain amount of years experience doing a certain activity, or maybe they're looking for someone with specific skills or certain personality traits, and so on. Okay, so usually those are listed in the job posting, okay? So the way you answer this question is when they say, why should I hire you? You say, well, you should hire me because, first of all, I have this educational qualification, which I know you're looking for, and I do have 5 years experience in this particular thing, which I know you're looking for, and I also have this skill and I have this trait, okay? So in a nutshell, that's how you answer this question. Now, obviously, it goes a bit further from just saying you have everything. You're going to try and explain a little bit and illustrate, perhaps give an example of each qualification or each requirement as you sort of go down the list, right? Do you have to mention absolutely all of them? No. Do you have to go into great detail on how you meet each one? No. Some people are concerned that you might not meet every single requirement. Is that a deal breaker? No, it isn't. Hopefully, you can at least speak to each requirement. So let's pretend that they're asking for 5 years experience in, customer service. And let's say you have 2 years experience in customer service, not 5, okay? So you could say, well, I have 2 years direct experience in customer service, but before I worked in customer service, I had 5 years experience working in warranty work, where I did have to interface with customers. I did have to communicate directly with them and listen to their complaints and try to satisfy them and try to smooth things over. So really, that does fall under the umbrella of customer service, even though that wasn't my exact job title. So at the end of the day, I do have more than 5 years, really, of customer experience. So it's not going to be a problem, okay? I know my way around customer service. I've had a lot of years dealing with customers, okay? So that's just an example, okay? You don't have to meet every single one of the requirements, but you do have to speak to them and being able to put their mind at ease that that requirement is not going to be an issue for you because you are qualified, okay? Now, there's several things about this. Now, if we read this article, okay, what hiring managers are looking for, and just as a note here, I want to say that it's not hiring managers that give interviews. Hiring managers interview people for jobs, but also recruiters interview people for jobs too. So this is not just what hiring managers are looking for, but they're looking for a few key points, as it says in this article. It's talking about your experience, okay, what your personality is like, and whether you've done research on the company and role. Well, yes, they are looking for this, okay. First of all, how your experience suits the company's needs, that's kind of covered when you talk about the job requirements, okay, like I mentioned. What your personality is like, you don't have to worry about that because they are going to see your personality when you answer the question, okay? You can't fake a personality, really, other than trying to be pleasant and agreeable and forthcoming. There's nothing you can really do about this. It's not something you can study for. And the only thing you can do is just have a good attitude, really. Okay, now whether you've done research on the company and role, this may come into it, but this is not really, in my opinion, what this question is about, okay? It's an open-ended question. Why should I hire you? And you're responding to a job ad, and you're going to be talking about how you meet the requirements. Now, the purpose of that answer, okay, the purpose of the answer that you give is to convey to them that you're fully qualified, okay? You're a fully qualified candidate. Now, if in a perfect world, the interviewer has read your resume and they are familiar with your resume, then this might be a bit of repetition for them, but that's not a bad thing, okay? Because what you're doing is you're not just hoping that they know that you're qualified. You want to tell them that you're qualified. You want to explain to them and illustrate and give examples of how you're qualified. So if they know it already, great. You emphasize it again and you give a little more detail, okay? Now, that's in a perfect world, and articles like these are written by recruiters who assume that we're in a perfect world, where a recruiter interviewing you would know your resume. However, like the majority of us know who have been to a lot of job interviews, that is not the world we live in. A lot of job interviews, when you go to a job interview, the recruiter has never read your resume, or if they have read it, it's been a long time ago, and they haven't refreshed themselves before your interview. So essentially, they know nothing about you when the interview starts, okay? So that is a much more common situation for most people. And so when you start giving them a synopsis of how you're qualified for the role, a lot of times, this will be new information to them, at least on this day, okay? And usually people ask you this question towards the beginning of a job interview anyway, which is perfect because you get to lay out the key things that you have that give you the strongest argument for why they should pick you, okay? Now, other things in this article here, it talks about, how to focus your answer. Don't try to cram too much detail. Keep in mind that your answer will probably be around 2 minutes. I don't think people will sit patiently for 10 minutes while you talk in a continuous block. So expect that you'll be talking for about 2 minutes. So, give a couple of sentences of detail for perhaps each requirement would be a good rule of thumb. Okay, but obviously you're not going to be able to talk for 10 minutes uninterrupted. Okay, so give a little bit of detail, and that's good enough. Okay, now it says here there's more than one way to answer this question. Okay, or to ask this question. Yes, exactly. That's what I said earlier. Why should I hire you can be rephrased as what makes you the best candidate for this role, or what can you bring to this job? Okay. You may even be asked, why did you apply for this position? All these questions are the same question in disguise. The answer for all these questions is for you to explain why you're qualified, why you're a perfect fit for this job. Okay. So you do this by going down their stated list of requirements and saying how you meet them. Or if you don't meet them literally 100%, you can at least speak to them so that they're not a concern. Now, one point I want to make here, one secret I want to reveal to you, and that is that if you have been called in for an interview in the first place, that signals that you meet the mechanical requirements for the job. They are not concerned that you don't have any of the mechanical requirements, okay? So for example, if they're looking for a certain educational qualification, let's say they say you can either have a degree in this, or you can have, say, 5 years experience doing that job, okay? If they've called you in for an interview, the assumption is that whatever you have, they didn't find anything on your resume to be a deal breaker, okay? So the job interview is really going to be about your personality, your attitude, and to see if there's anything wrong with you as a person. They want to check that your communication skills are good. They want to check that your attitude is good. They want to check that your work history is okay. That there's no red flags in a non-technical way with you. This is called soft skills. Okay, they want to make sure that apart from having the mechanical requirements, that as a person and as an employee, you are okay. Now, this is usually something that it comes out in the interview just by your interaction with them, okay? This is not something you can study for. This is not something you can really fake, okay? They just want to know who you are as a person, okay? For example, if you come in and you appear to be hostile, you appear to be offended by their questions, you appear to have lost patience with the interview process, that's going to tell them that's going to be a big red flag for them, okay? And it's things like that they're really looking for, okay? And they ask these questions as a platform to go deeper, okay, into your work history, into your personality, into who you are, okay? Job interviews are really about soft skills, okay? But that being said, we don't want to stumble over any of these questions, okay? Because if we can't answer these questions, that also says something about our soft skills, okay? Perhaps our public speaking abilities are not very good. Perhaps we have an issue with being nervous or being self-conscious or something like that, and that speaks to our personality and our soft skills, okay? Now, at the very bottom here, it says prepare, 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 okay? And it says it's important that you prepare a tailored response for each job interview. Well, yes and no. I don't think this is necessarily 100% true in all situations. It doesn't do any harm if you have a lot of information about the organization that's interviewing you, the company where if you get the job, you would be working. If you know a lot about them and you know a lot about their culture and you know a lot about maybe the people there and their expectations for performance and things like this, you can definitely speak to that and say, I know that you do things this way here, and I respond very well to that. I've been looking for a place that has that because of this. That would be an appropriate thing to include in your answer. But this, I don't think, is certainly not number one. I wouldn't worry about preparing a tailored response to every company. I would simply go to the interview with the original job posting. That way, you can put it on the table in front of you if you're sitting at a table to do the job interview, okay? And that will refresh you on what the original job requirements were. So it's not that you're going to be staring down at the paper the entire time, but they're there just to jog your memory about what they were looking for, okay? And that way you don't have to memorize your entire answer. You can go off the original job posting. Okay, now as I mentioned, it's very important that you understand that you're not reading the response right off the page. You're not staring down at your paper the entire time. It's just there to glance at so that you can refresh yourself on exactly what they were looking for and you could speak to each of those requirements. I don't think it takes much more preparation than that. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. This question is, like I said, this question is about why you specifically are the person they should pick. And this is a great question to be asked because you get to make a great case for yourself. Tell them what you have. Tell them what you know. Tell them how you have the things that they said they were looking for. Okay? And that way you will shine. That way you will Feel confident about yourself, and that way you'll be able to give them a great answer to this question. So hopefully that makes sense. Thank you very much for your attention. You guys are awesome, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.